You will.
Linda's just like a moaning old trout. If someone's going to punch me in the mouth, I'm going to tell him where I'm going to go. I'm not going to have that for no one. You want it? Do you want it, fella? Come on in. Uh-oh. Yeah! 1 minute you're looking at a bin, next minute you're ducking and diving for punches. Come on.
Welcome back to the Bad Blood Podcast, people. Today we have a special guest, TV reality star, Daniel Hill. First off, we'll get these sponsors out the way. Spartan BK FightClub, the #1 fastest growing bare knuckle company in. It's just the #1, hitting many aspects of the combat sports. So watch out for the breaking news. We will be bringing it to you very soon. Also, Mr. Bloom's Black Seed Oil Mechanics, fantastic product that helps in many health ways. Lots of fat, absolutely brilliant for sleep, more focus. Check out their Facebook page.
Over on my side, I want to give a big shout out to Scott West Shellfish, a valuable asset of our little family that we've got going on, and someone that we can't wait to take with on the journey. Another new sponsor on board that we can't wait to get working with, Heathen Clothing. So big thank you to Sean. Last but not least, the Governor Sports and Nutrition. All your sporting needs, active wear, ring wear, training wear, protein, fat burners, out like that, they do it. Straight in.
Right.
Wait a minute. Something's happened. Wait a minute. What's happened here? No. You still there, boys?
Yeah, we're here, man.
I completely lost you. Like, I can hear you, but I can't see you anymore.
We can see you.
You can see me, right? Okay. Something's come about reading. No. Why is it doing that? I've literally lost you completely. Wait a minute. If I go back a bit, no. Launch meeting.
Is it on the bottom of the screen? Is there like?
No, it completely disappeared, mate. But anyway, I'm back. There we go.
Right.
Fucking technology, eh?
That's a good intro. Dan, how are you doing, fella?
Yeah, boys, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, mate. I mean, it's crazy times at the moment, but not too bad.
How are you coping with these times? Because obviously everybody's coping differently. Everybody takes the stuff differently. But how are you coping with today's times?
Do you know what? I mean, the first lockdown, funnily enough, I think the weather was much better, and we actually quite enjoyed it, you know. But this one, it's been quite tough, especially with the fight coming up. All the gyms are closed, so you know, there's hardly any training. You can't see anybody. It's kind of caused a bit of dramas because obviously when I started, you know, signed up for the Spartan thing, I had all these people line up to train with, and that's all just been, you know, knocked on the head, you know. Yeah. But we're all the one good thing is we're all in the same boat with it. It's not like, you know, everyone's I think struggling.
It's not just one of us, but all at a standstill, aren't we?
Everybody's.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like I'm just the only one and everyone else. You know, I'm a bit worried then, but yeah, you know. It's difficult, mate. I mean, it's crazy times out there, boys.
It is. Hopefully it gets better soon. Hopefully. That's a hopefully.
I think we've got to cross our fingers, you know, and sort of see what's coming. You know, positive energy, boys.
Right. Daniel Hill, it's an absolute honor to have you on the show. You are a UK reality TV businessman, I would say.
Oh, some say that is true, boys. Some say that is true.
True, right? I want to get to know you. I want to go right back to the start. So where did you grow up, and what was it like growing up during them times?
Yeah, mate. I'm from a place called Woking in Surrey, which is a funny place because most people think of Surrey as quite a posh place. Yeah. But actually, you know, I don't really consider myself a posh person. But my family is quite unusual. We came from a really big family. You know, I've got a lot of uncles, a lot of cousins. Funny enough, one of my uncles, Martin, he was a bare knuckle fighter. In the late 70s, early 80s. So I come from a family, you know, one of them families had a bit of a reputation. It was that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And fighting was always quite big for us. You know, my dad especially. I never went boxing club. I never went. You know, my dad spent time with me. You know, did a few things with me, and it sort of. That was always the thing, really. There was always, you know, someone have a bit of rub. And it was funny. I was, you know, talking to someone the other day about all this knife crime and all this. I don't remember anybody having knives when I was younger. You know, if you had a row with someone, Used to get a couple of them, be like, you know, even sometimes my dad would get a couple of lads, you'd have a little fight, you shake hands afterwards, and a lot of times you'd end up being friends with some of these people. Do you know what I mean? And now it feels like you know, you got two young lads. I mean, I'm nearly 40, so we were talking a while ago, but are so quick to stab each other, and you're like, fucking hell, what? I just, you know, things have changed, boys. But yeah, so that's kind of, you know, where I'm from. As I said, I'm from quite a big family, and just yeah, that's kind of how it went.
How was school and growing up?
Oh, well, I'm dyslexic, so I was never really good at reading and writing, and school was always difficult. I think, you know, there's always boys always got in trouble. I went to school. I didn't do very well, but I was just probably just kind of a very similar story you kind of hear everywhere. It's sort of, for us, it was, you know, chatting to the girls, getting a bit of trouble, ducking out when you could, you know. Yeah, so I never really got on with school really. After that, I just kind of jumped straight into the buying and selling stuff, really. My dad was a builder by trade, but he was a buy and seller. There's always stuff flying around, and I kind of picked up at it on a really early age, really, selling stuff at school, bits and bobs, you know. And from there, I mean, I've always pretty much from school kind of worked for myself, really. Just, you know, I got the odd little job here and there, but it was mainly, you know, I always made my most money buying something cheap. You know, I used to go to a lot of auctions and buy stuff and then just flog it on, really.
So did you take that straight away, did you?
It's kind of just something that we've all done in my family, you know, is a bit of buying and selling. There's always, I mean, my granddad used to buying and selling cars. My dad's always bought and sold stuff. Yeah, you know. And then I think for me, I kind of, later on in my early 20s, I kind of went into used to buy and sell a bit of antiques. I always found there was a bit more money in them kind of things. Do you know what I mean? And you sort of, as you go on with stuff, you find things that you're not so good at. Like I was terrible with cars. I tried to buy a few second-hand cars, and I'm not a mechanic. I'm not very good at them things. I ended up always getting, you know, it's like you think, oh, I bought this whole, I don't know. In them days, it was like a 205 GTI or something, you know, and I thought it was cheap, and I was like, yeah, mate, I'll make some money on this. Get it home, and the whole thing just blows up. Do you know what I mean? And it's all them kind of things, you know.
So do you know, after that, can you remember your first big profit, what you made?
Big profit, yeah. I mean, to be honest, it's all been swings and roundabouts. I've had quite a few good things. You know, especially I used to do a bit of house clearance, and we would always find a couple of times I found a bit of jewelry and a few bits. What else have we done? To be fair, you know, like it sounds, and I say, some people say this to me. One of the things I always used to do quite well at is actually going to car boot sales. A proper, I mean, I'm talking years ago, proper old school car boot sale.
I saw an article online. And did you find a £5,000 ring and buy it for £1.50?
I did.
That's
I did. Yeah, I did.
Did you know what this ring had value?
Do you know what? I'll be honest with you. I wasn't sure. Do you know what I mean? I looked at it. I wasn't sure, and then I got it valued. And that's the thing about you. I very rarely buy jewelry because it's so easy to get it wrong. Do you know what I mean? You know, like you've really got to be on point. You know, even with like someone says, I mean, the amount of times I've had people try and sell me like Rolexes and stuff, and it's no good. Do you know what I mean? Because you know, you need to know where you got paperwork with it, and you know, and people think, oh, it's very difficult. I like stuff that's simple. You know, you can easily go, that's what its value is. Nothing's going to go wrong with it. It's not going to, you know what I mean? But yeah, but that's what I used to love doing. We used to buy these, and you might even laugh at this. This was my best earners. We used to buy these boxes at the auctions. This was years ago, and they were basically they would call them shit boxes, right? And you'd probably bought a whole box of absolute crap for about £3. But when you kind of pulled it all out, you'd have loads of things, which would be like the little 50p things you'd have, and you could turn £3 into maybe £25. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you know, and imagine I used to fill I have this van full of these boxes of absolute shit. You'd rock up to a car boot sale and literally, 50p, I'll have that, 50p, 50p. And everyone would be like, not thinking, and you'd walk out with like 500-600 quid.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Because all these little 50p's at the end of the day mounted up. And that was always quite a good little turn, you know.
Wow.
But after I did the show, I had to knock all that on the head because it was all just like, you'd end up getting people crowd your thing, but no one would buy nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it got a bit of a nightmare in the end, you know. But no, that was good, you know. I've always liked it.
How did the chance to become on TV, how did that arise?
Well, when I was living back in Surrey, I was quite known in a lot of the auctions, and the people from Storage Hunters were kind of going around actively looking for different dealers. It's what a lot of people don't realise is when they put the show on, all the people there are kind of cast, so that you have to be a dealer to be invited onto the show.
Yeah, right.
But you can't just rock up. And there's a funny story because when it all first started, we were asking a lot of questions about it, and they had the auctioneer guy, Sean, was the guy from the original show.
Yeah.
And he explained on the very first, I don't know if anyone's going to find this interesting, but on the very first American show, they just opened the doors and they just let loads of people up, and they had about 500-600 people turn up, and they said it was a fucking nightmare because they can't. Because even though it's reality and they're filming it, they still have to kind of control it to a certain point.
Right.
And then what happened was they said on the very first American one, halfway through the day, most of the dealers left and there was no one there. And what happens is you do all the lockers in the day, and then in the afternoon, they want to interview you about the lockers. The dealers didn't want to hang around for that.
Right.
So they said, caused a fucking nightmare. So after that first one, they completely changed it. So what they did was they found a group of dealers, and that they were the set dealers, and they used to bring different people in, but then they knew who was going to be there and what was going. Just, do you know what I mean? That kind of worked. So otherwise, one day you'd have loads of people, next day you might have no one. Do you know what I mean?
So
that kind of.
How long was like a day? It was like out of production for, say, an episode. How long would that take?
Oh, mate, it's all fucking day, mate. It was literally, we got up really early in the morning, and what people don't see is, I think on the episodes, I think they had 3 or 4 lockers you would see each episode, but we would actually do about 15 or 16 lockers in a day. Wow. And what they would do is they would pick the best ones that went on the show, because at the end of the day, it's still a TV show you're making. And what you find is almost 90% of the lockers you would open up and they crack the lock, it was just full of there was nothing there. Do you know what I mean? You know, and that was one of the things people always say, well, how come it's either really good or really not? And what you don't see is we've fucking gone through the treadmill of opening locker after locker after locker after locker, and they pick the ones, and when they're in the editing, they go, oh yeah, that guy made loads of money, that looks really cool, boom. Oh, that guy lost loads of money. But if it's like, if you open it and it was, I don't know, nothing really happens, it just didn't make the edit. Do you know what I mean? And that's how they it was kind of volume, really. Do you know what I mean?
Was the show executives demanding, or were they like considerate in what you had to accomplish?
No, it was hard. It was hard, actually, because what they tried to do, and yet again, I think this is something in the reality show, is nothing was fake, but they used to wind everybody up. Like, I remember, like, right on day one, there was this couple, Natalie and her husband. They'd come from Hull, I think it was Hull, and straight away they were trying to create a north-south divide drama. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, would you bring it in? Oh, Dan's from, you know, London. I wasn't from London, but that was the, you know, and they would come back and they would say, oh, fucking Natalie just said you're an arsehole. And you'd be like, oh, fucking what? And so even though the arguments were kind of real, like they were real arguments, 10 minutes before, they'd really wound everybody up. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's I mean, you know what it's like when you're editing these things. You know, you probably cut them out, but you know, you pick the bits you want to show. Like if I'm talking to you and I talk a bit, it's to make it tight and looking right. You know what I mean?
So would you on the set, is it what people portray? Like, oh, it's all the glitz and the little glamour. Like, you've got your trucks with your food and stuff like that. Is that a fair portrayal of what it's really like?
It's quite funny. The first one we did, the first series, it was really like, well, it's not even rubbish, mate. It was nothing. They pulled this one little table out, and they had this side, right, and they had like a couple of cans of Coke on it, and I mean nothing. Yeah. And it was, I think it was even, no, sorry. Anyway, it was just, there was nothing. But because it did so well the next year, when we rocked up at the next series, we got this really plush. They bought this massive truck thing out, and they had this guy sorted out. So it literally gone from. I mean, I rocked up the first day, and I thought, "What the fuck is this, mate?" It looked so Mickey. It just looked Mickey Mouse. It was just like, we didn't even have proper chairs to sit on. There was no budget for anything, mate, in the first series. And then it just exploded. And I'm assuming they gave them more money. The next time, like I said, they had this big lorry, and you go in there. They had like people making nice lunch for you. You could have lunch orders. It completely. I mean, I wouldn't say it was glitz and glamour, but you know, it did kind of go from one end to the other.
More accommodatable and stuff like that. Like more comfortable.
Yeah. Once it got a bit successful, it was a bit nicer to you. Do you know what I mean?
Am I right in saying it changed stations at one point, the actual show, or did it always stop on one station?
So originally it was an American show, which Dave bought the rights to it, the Dave UK TV Dave channel. So they bought the right, and they showed all the American ones. And then they bought the right to make the UK version. So as far as I'm aware, it's always been. I think it gets shown abroad quite a lot. I get tweets all the time from like South Africa and all kinds of places. They're putting it out there. Do you know what I mean? And but yeah, no, as far as in the UK, so I think it's always been on Dave.
Right. What we do.
So Dan, you were saying that you were already well known around your area, like at the auctions and stuff like that. When people started seeing you on the TV, did that boost your character up a bit more? Did more people start recognising you? More people knowing the crack?
Do you know what? It was a mixture, a real mixture. You know, sometimes people came out and they're like, "Oh, mate, we love the show. We like, you know, everything was good. They want a picture." And then, you know, you get fucking people that were just like, "You're a cunt, mate." Do you know what I mean? And mate, on Twitter, I come off Twitter for a little bit because I was getting because I'm naturally quite a cocky person, you know. I just say it how it is, and I say, look, and I've got no problem. I mean, I had a T-shirt made up one episode saying "simply the best." Do you know what I mean? And I was like, as far as I'm concerned, I used to openly say it to the other dealers, I'm better than you. Yeah. I make more money than you. I'm better than you. You got nothing on me. And there was one episode where they brought some of the American guys over. And we had Jesse, who actually now I'm actually really good friends with, funnily enough. But at the time, he started slagging me up when he was in America, started slagging me off on Twitter. And then he rocks up and they kind of put him in an episode. We actually had a bit of a fight on one of the episodes. And I was like, mate, you're a fucking tramp. I said, look at the stage. I always like to look quite nice, presentable. And I said, and he was like, and he couldn't get his head around it. And everyone was like, you know, like he wears the same fucking jacket that he's worn.
T-shirt, jeans.
You know what I mean? I was like, mate, I said, look, and I remember there's a bit on the episode. I said, are you that fucking skin? You can't afford a new fucking jacket. I said, honestly. And I said, I'll give you some money. I said, honestly, I got a bit knocking around, and I used to be quite a cocky person. So then there was like I said, Twitter just came out. You know, when I was on Twitter. And I used to get, and that's the irony of me now doing the banner. I used to get people saying, "Oh, I'll come down your gaff. Let's fucking do this and da da da." So there was quite a negative side to it as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you had your people that liked the show and this, and then you just had people that were just like, you know, I don't know, jealous. I don't know whatever you want to call it, but there was it came with a lot of negativity as well.
Was there any point in the show where you thought, nah, I can't do this anymore? Or it's just not for me?
Do you know what? Not in the show. At that period in my life, I was always quite thick-skinned. I actually really enjoyed it. I kind of buzzed. If anything, at the time, when people used to give me, you know, grief, was my dad used to give us chops. I used to give it back to him. I didn't care. I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. Do you know what I mean? I used to almost buzz off it a little bit, and I always kind of used to think, well, if I'm aggravating you, you know, then I'm doing something good, you know. And it's quite funny. I saw on the Spartan, there's a guy, is it Woodard? He's a young guy.
Aaron Woodward.
That's it. He's not very good at fighting, but he's got some proper banter, mate. He really had. It reminded me. That's the kind of shit I used to do on Storage Hunters. I used to wind everybody up, and I used to love it. Do you know what I mean? I quite like it. He's quite funny. He's not a very good fighter, but he's funny as fuck, isn't he? Do you know what I mean?
I like Aaron. You know what I mean? It brings a different element to the sport. A lot of the fighters don't like it, but it's got to bring the non-lookers and the non-people who's not watching. It brings them type of people in. You know what I mean?
People haven't got a clue until they've seen them in the group chat.
They haven't. The thing is, it made me laugh on the group chat. I don't know, it was about 6 weeks ago, something like that. And where everybody, mainly what's his name? What's his first name? Aaron, isn't it?
Aaron, yeah.
Aaron. Where he was kind of winding everybody up. Everyone was going fucking mental. Do you know what I mean? But then everyone kept getting banned. And then I saw a post, and I mean, this was the funniest of outfit. I had to tell my missus this, right? There's a post from the main guy, Christian, telling people not to be aggressive or swear because Facebook is complaining. And I said to my wife, I was like, hang on a minute. This is a bare knuckle fucking right? Of hard bastards, yeah? And we're being told we're not allowed to swear and be aggressive. I mean, I was like, it's not fucking My Little Pony, do you know what I mean? And that's why, to be fair, I never say anything. I've kept quite low profile. I don't really say anything because I can't be bothered with getting like 12-week bans and all that shit because everyone seems to get them. And to me, I don't understand why Christian can't just say to Facebook, this is a bare knuckle, yeah? People are going to be aggressive. That's you know, that's the name of the game. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. That kind of made me laugh a little bit. But yeah.
Well, you've mentioned the Spartan and the bare knuckle. Obviously, yeah, we done some stuff last night with Darren Wilson and Christian about the safeguarding, about the mental health of the fighters outside of the pit.
Yeah.
You yourself have suffered mental health problems before, and this is why you've tried and going to try the bare knuckle route. Could you just talk through how the mental health occurred and what you're doing now to implement them bad demons away? Yeah,
well, do you know what? Mental health, I think, is a really difficult thing for especially men to talk about. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because you're kind of from a young age, especially my family, we were told, you know, getting upset, you know, this kind is a weakness. You don't show weakness. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it was about end of 2018. I'm not going to go into the full story because it's a long story. Yeah. But, you know, things hadn't panned out quite how I thought they would. A lot of depression set in. I was kind of just struggling really with how things had gone, and my brain just went. It was fucked, mate. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to get out of bed. I just, you know, pardon?
Like it just gave up on you.
It just gave up on me, mate. You know, and I couldn't work out what was going on, and I was just depressed all the time, and I didn't want to speak to anybody, and things really got, you know, really bad, really, really bad. You know, I know. My wife was really worried about me. She got me signed up with the local mental health people. You know, I was on suicide watch at one point. That's how bad it got. Really, really bad for me. I'm sorry. Well, I mean, it's just how these things are. And I think the thing was, I wasn't helping myself because I'd recently moved. I don't live where I'm from anymore. Funny enough, because I'm from the big family, there was always a lot of dramas. It caused drama. So I ended up moving away. And so I don't really have much. I didn't have much of a network of people around me. And it was really, really tough. And it was just, so my head was completely fucked. And I'd fallen out with my brothers. I hadn't spoken to my brothers for a long time. And they came up to see me. And we were sitting there, we were talking, and I was explaining some of the things. And it was my brothers that suggested the fight. And they were like, you know, Dan, you got some demons. You need to go and have a fight, Dan. That's what you need to do. You need to go out there and offload all the shit is in your head, you need to give that to somebody else.
Yeah.
So, I sat there for a little bit and we talked about it and, what kind of things. And it's funny when we used to get in a lot of fights when I was younger, and it was always definitely Friday, Saturday nights at the pub. It was that kind of fighting. Do you know what I mean? And I was never the fastest, and I was never the strongest. But I have a lot of anger when I was younger, and I used to hit a lot of things like doors, cars, windows, all kind of, just as a kid. And I still have now. I've got like hands of concrete, mate. It literally. And when I was talking to my brothers, they were like, maybe you should try boxing. And I said, my one skill, my one thing I've got is my hands. If I put them in a boxing glove, I'm just going to be, an average fighter. Do you know what I mean? I want to bring that to whatever I'm going to do. As I said, that is
advantage.
It's my one advantage I've got. I mean, literally, as I said, as a kid, I used to have so much anger in me. I used to just punch walls. I used to do it as fun. That's what I used to do. So, and that's kind of, I said, right, that's what I'm going to do. And then I was kind of thought, right, how do I go about this? So I went to a few of the sites where I live, talked to some of the boys I know and some other families around here, see if anyone could kind of set up a little bare knuckle for me. And it was quite funny. It was actually almost impossible. Every site I went to, everyone I tried to talk to, they were like, Dan, we don't really want to get involved. No one wants to, sort of fight out. It was almost impossible. Do you know what I mean? And then someone suggested, have you heard of this Spartan? And I was like, no, I haven't heard of Spartan. Because obviously I'm down south, so I think it's a bigger thing up north.
Yeah.
And no, not heard of it. He said, well, look, a friend of mine, someone I knew, he said, check this out on Facebook. And I clicked it, and I was like, "Yeah, mate, this is for me, 100%." I liked everything about it. I like the bales. To be honest, I even like the smallness of it because, for me, as I said, my strength is my hands. I haven't got the speed. I haven't got that, so I don't want to be dancing around a fucking ring all day. I want to kind of get in there, get the fucking job done, bosh, done. So I saw that, boom, that's it, perfect. So then I'm like, right, okay, and this then started leaning just before the lockdown, the first lockdown. That's that kind of, so it's not that long ago.
Yeah.
And
I can
saw the message
on Twitter.
Yeah. So you saw the message. So, and I'm messaging everybody and I'm like, look, I want to get in. And everyone's like, oh, right, have you had a fight? Where's some footage? Well, I'm nearly 40 now, boys, right? The last fight I had was when I was about 25. So we're talking, no one had phones then. A long fucking time ago. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, no, I've got nothing. So everyone was saying to me, right, well, at least you got to get some sparring footage. I was like, right, okay, da-da-da. So I ended up talking to a gym, which is not that close to me, but it's down south, called Gaff, where Billy Broad trains.
Yeah,
yeah. What's that?
Is that Andrew Luke?
Andrew Luke, yeah, Andrew Luke,
yeah. Big shout out, Andrew.
Yeah.
Lovely man, fantastic guy.
Hey, honestly, Andrew is cushy, mate. He's cushy.
Yeah, mate.
Does Leon train down there?
Leon trains there as well.
Yeah, big shout out Leon as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
As well.
Hey, yeah. Leon's my mush, mate. So, so I spoke to him and I was like, and I told him what I want to do, and he was like, okay, look, we'll set something up, and then bang, we had the first lockdown. So that shut that down.
Nice.
Then there was a little bit of a space, and I managed to get over there for 2 sessions, right? And then we had the tier situation.
Oh, fucking hell, man.
We had the tier situation, and then he says to me, then I went up, he said, oh, Billy's fighting at the last one they had. He said, do you want to come up? I said, yeah, I'll come up to that. So I saw the Billy fight, and I was like, mate, I want to get in this pit, mate. Mm-hmm. And he said, all right, we'll sort something out. And then bang, they hit us with the Christmas, and then they've hit us with the full lockdown. Do you know what I mean? And I got to the point where I thought to myself, do you know what? I felt like I've put this off nearly a year, trying to find someone to train me. And I thought, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to put my name down. Whatever the fuck happens, I'm going to put my name down. I'm going to give it my fucking all. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do the job. And that's the mentality I've had. And so then I spoke to Christian. And I explained the situation, and that's obviously why he put me down as a novice. Do you know what I mean? So the plan was, I wanted fucking 9 months of fucking training at Gaff. That was my fucking plan.
Right.
But, you know, it hasn't quite worked out like that, boys. But, no, that's kind of how I see it. And then, funny enough, I spoke to my dad recently about it. And he was telling me some stories about my uncle and the one that used to do the bare knuckle. And he said, you know, you just go in there. You go fucking and you don't stop until the fucking job's done, basically. And that's how. I mean, look, boys, I'm not going in there to fucking lose. That's not how I see it.
You can't jump in them bills. But like, even if you're not 100%,
you can't fuck around in them bills. There's nowhere to fucking run around. Do you know what I mean? You can't run off. Do you know what I mean? So
that's it.
Say that again, boy.
Way for you to get in there, you know what I mean? Because it takes a lot to get in them bills. We've been up there close to them. It's that hats off to you, Dan. You know what I mean, for getting in there.
Thank you, boys. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I take my hat off to any man that gets in there, and any man that actually gets in there gets my full respect. Because like we see it all the time, it's a new breed of combat sport. It's not boxing. It's pit fighting. It's raw. It's got different rule sets. Now we're going to start trying to make stamp our mark in the combat sport. So welcome.
And as I said, actually, from my own personal skill set, I think it works in my favour because, as I said, you know what I mean. You know, when you're in a bigger ring, I mean, I've done a bit of sparring with people. You got you running around. It takes long. I mean, you know, boxing fights are long. You got to have a lot of stamina to hang out that. You know, you go fucking hell for leather. You give it your all, and it's the first man to fucking drop is the loser, and that's. Do you know what I mean? It's different. It's not. You know, I mean, they're over quick. You go in there.
We went our pals show Pandemic Promotions, and I think there was only one fight that went the distance. It went the distance or went past the first round. Every single punch was thrown, was cutting people, ripping them up. I mean, it was raw.
Yeah. And that's another thing I liked actually. I when I went to Billy's fight, I liked it even more. I like the rawness of it. And I actually think that is Spartan's kind of best selling point. You know what I mean? You know, you turn up, you know, and you go in there and you know what I mean? There is a proper atmosphere, mate. You know what I mean?
To remember.
Yeah. It's gritty, mate. It's fucking gritty, mate. You know, I mean, it was next to a site, you know, and a car park bit, you know. Do you know what I mean? It was good, mate. I like all that. Yeah. It's probably old school. It's old school. You know what I mean? You don't go in there to play about. You go in there to do the proper business, mate. And mate, some of the warriors in there, it was brutal, mate. It was brutal. There's a guy I saw fight, and his name, I can't remember his surname. He was a big guy. I think it's Anthony something.
Andrew Anthony.
That's it. The bad motherfucker. And he fought for the belt. Yeah. Fucking hell. That was a big guy, mate.
Last respect to Jamie Hendry as well. Big. Andrew Anthony, he knocked him out, and then the next punch brought him back. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how hard that man hits.
Yeah. I mean, like for me, like when I started this a few months ago, and I kind of spoke to Christian, I was saying, right, I'm going to do this. I've had to lose quite a lot of weight because I was originally nearly 14 stone, but like not muscle, like fat basically. Yeah. So I thought, well, you know, and I looked at the 14 stone fighters, and I thought most of them are 14 stone of muscle. Yeah. So when I was younger, I've always been around the 12 stone mark. So I've had to lose nearly 2 stone, and that's been quite hard. Do you know what I mean? Because you know, it's like, boys, you know, I'm used to eating pizza and eating burgers, Mackie D's, and all kinds of shit, and I'm like, fucking hell, man, I'm eating, you know, protein shake and raw eggs and not raw eggs, but you know, scrambled egg and fucking. You know, where's the carbs, mate? Diet is hard, man. That's
living the life.
What's that?
Living the life.
Not living the life, mate. Right. So I go to bed. My stomach is starving, man. I think that, mate. But the goal is, I've got to get this job done. And if I don't diet, either they're not going to let me fight in the category I want to, or they're going to push me up with the fucking monsters. You know what I mean? You got to think, Leon fight. No, but Leon fights at 14 stone. Do you know what I mean? There are much bigger guys. Do you know what I mean? You know, big guys. Yeah. So
honestly, Dan, we've only got like 40 minutes on this and time to play with on the Zoom. Would you be up for another part?
Say that again, another part.
Yeah, like another part, like a separate part. Like if we were to do this as a first part, would you be willing to come on again where we could do a second?
Yeah, 100%, boys. Yeah.
You are the man, mate. Just because, like, we only get like a 40-minute time slot on this, and then we've only got so much memory. But obviously, we're being a new podcast, but we can do it in 2 parts, like we have done with other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, honestly, whatever you want, do another one now, or do?
We'll
do another one another time.
Yeah, we'll do it. Maybe when are you free from, like, because we're in, because it's gonna be, say, another week. Would that be good for you?
All good, boys. All good. Yeah. No problem.
Honestly,
No problem.
you're the man, mate.